My name is David Nolan, and I'm the host of Actuary Voices, the podcast from the American Academy of Actuaries. Today, I'm here with Sherry Chan, who was recently appointed as Vice President for Pensions on the American Academy of Actuaries Board. Sherry has been a member and Vice Chairperson of the Pension Practice Council and was Chairperson of the Pension Practice Council's Public Plans Committee. Sherry, welcome to Actuary Voices.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, David. It's great to sit down with you today.
It's great to see you as well. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, so I am currently the VP of Pension at the Academy, which is a board position and executive officer position. Very honored to be serving the profession in this capacity. I've had some pretty long experience volunteering with the Academy. I started out as a Public Plans Committee member, and then afterwards I was recruited to be the chair of that committee. And after serving a few years in that capacity, I was also asked to be one of the co-vice chairs of the Pension Practice Council. And having done that for a couple of years, I'm in the current position I am right now.
For our non-pension listeners, tell people what you did or what the Public Plans Committee does.
Yeah, the Pension Practice Council, rather. They deal with emerging issues within the pension sphere of the actuarial profession. And that can include responding to certain ASOPs that come out that has to do with the pension field specialty, or responding to perhaps some legislation or other proposed legislation that's out there. We also write thought leadership papers on topics that affects the pension sphere. So the Pension Practice Council is comprised of various committees. The main ones are the Pension Committee, Public Plans Committee, as well as the Multi-Employer Committee.
Great. And the Public Plans Committee that you were on for a few years, what work did you do with them?
Well, there were some ASOPs that came out around that time, so we did respond to some of the exposure drafts. There were some legislation, I believe, in Missouri, the state of Missouri, concerning some of the annuity payouts and the discount rates used for that and the disclosures surrounding that rollout. So there was a letter that was in response to that. And we write papers. Recently, we wrote a paper about COVID, how COVID affects various issues within the public plans. We're working on an inflation paper right now. That's a hot topic, obviously, that affects not just public plans, but there are specific areas within public plans that it does affect, such as the cost of living adjustment. And so we're working on that. There's discussion about surplus funding right now, as the markets, prior to maybe the last few weeks with what's going on in Russia and Ukraine right now, the markets were doing really well, and the public plans were in a situation where they were approaching 100% funded. And we wanted to, just make sure that people knew during these situations, during these funded ratio situations, how to properly fund their plans. Because I think, looking back in the past couple of decades or so, a lot of discussion has been around, how to get your plan to fully funded. And right now, it's almost like the reverse situation. So we wanted to, provide some, just some guidance about, not guidance, but more so some, thoughts of how to properly fund the plan and being responsible to fund the plan even in this situation.
So you deal with up-to-the-minute topics.
Very much so. And that goes all the way up to the board too, right? So, we're meeting, for example, shortly for the executive committee meeting that happens about every couple of months. And topics that we raise are very much emerging issues. And, what are some topics that would affect the actuarial profession? And those items are discussed on, from the top down too.
Sure. And I should remind readers who may not be aware, but ASOPs are actuarial standards of practice. And there are currently 55 of them, I believe. And they are all housed on the Actuarial Standards Board's website. So let's talk about you a little bit and why you became an actuary, where you're from, what was your path to where you are currently.
Sure. I'm first generation Asian American. I grew up in the Midwest in Ohio, very Buckeye proud. And K through 12, undergrad, and including grad school was all in public school systems. So, I think that eventually probably paved the way for me to proudly serve the public in my previous role, and majority of my profession actually was working with the public sector. And, I think I kind of think back to why I chose the route I did to become an actuary. And, I don't know where the beginning point was, but I think the writing was always on the wall, so to speak. Recently, before I moved to New York, well, I say recently, but it was 7 years ago. I was cleaning out my house back in Ohio in preparation to move out to New York, and I came across some of my, results and materials and all that from the documentation from my elementary years. And I came across my CAT results, and CAT stands for the California Achievement Test. It wasn't just a standardized test for California students, but I think it was offered nationwide. And in our school, it was offered every 2 years. And I saw the test results from my second grade and my fourth grade test. And these are nationwide standardized tests, and they have different topics such as math and English and others. And so I looked at my math results because it really caught my eye, because it was a line. It was pictorially, your results were pictorially displayed. And I saw that, the line for my math results was all the way to the right, which surprised me. I guess I scored in the 99th percentile. I think I completely forgot about that until I came across that document. So, math has always been a strength of mine, I guess, and something I enjoyed doing. It came easy to me. I could see it, so to speak. There are things that I can't necessarily see, such as, some of the more right brain talents like drawing. I can't see. You do not want me to draw anything because I still draw stick figures, and my drawing skills never progressed past kindergarten.
Sorry, there's something wrong with stick figures?
Yeah, exactly right, David. There's nothing wrong with stick figures. Can't you tell who that is?
Right. Our producer was giving us a big thumbs up on the mention of Ohio, because he's also a proud Midwesterner.
OH.
I know.
And so did you take actuarial exams before or after college or during your university career?
So I did start, so at Ohio State, which is where I went to for undergrad and grad school, I came across actuarial science during my freshman year. And so I started out as a math major, but added on actuarial science as a double major. And so, yes, I started my actuarial journey, including taking exams in college. I think my first exam was probably my junior year. Also was the president of the Ohio State's Actuarial Club at that time, had a couple internships before graduation. But I will say, kind of as a word of encouragement, hopefully not discouragement for other people, it did take me 18 years to get through my actuarial exams. And that's probably something that most people would not be proud of saying. I don't necessarily know if I'm proud to say it, but it's offered as encouragement for others. I did take some time off, during that 18-year period to pursue my grad studies. I got my executive MBA from also Ohio State. And, I had some couple big career changes during that time. So I had to move to different states. So I did take some time off to kind of catch my breath. Obviously, attributing to my 18-year journey was not passing exams on the first or second try in some exams. And so, just don't be discouraged. Perseverance always comes through at the end of the day.
Well, they're good words to live by. I was reminded we recently were granting some scholarships for a conference at Drake University to increase the diversity of students who attend it. And one of the main criteria for people we are looking at is people who've taken exams and taken internships while they're still in university. And that's one of the deciding factors in who gets it. So,
and I think that paves the way really well for, actuaries who want to pursue the profession, or aspiring actuaries that want to pursue the profession. taking exams really gives you a taste of whether you want to dedicate your 20s to this profession or not, to the exams. And internships are so valuable because it's your opportunity to test drive a company out for a few months. And within the actuarial profession, there's so much specialties. Not just pension, obviously. As your chance of not fully committing, but seeing if for example, life insurance is what you want to do, or is pension what you want to do, or is healthcare what you want to do. So I definitely recommend that early start.
And is there anything you want to share about your career changes over that time before you settled down as an actuary?
Before I settled down as an actuary, I don't know. I've been, up to my most recent job experience, I've have been an actuary all my professional career, including all my internships. I spent 20 years in the profession, and I'm not a practicing actuary right now, but I am a proud member of, obviously, Academy and other actuarial organizations. Still very heavily volunteer in the profession. And I will say that the actuarial profession has provided me a great springboard to a lot of the analytics work that I use currently in my job. It's sometimes, when you go to actuarial school or take actuarial exams or work in the actuarial profession, part of obviously gaining the actuarial experience is one thing, but it's also about training your mind to think a certain way, right? Actuarial science is very analytical. And so, there's, different ways to, solve problems. And especially if, I can't speak too much about other specialties, but in the pension profession and specifically in public plans where it's not ERISA regulated. And there's there's a lot more creativity to design your plans. It's how do you accomplish, certain budgets, or how do you fit into certain contribution schedules within the parameters that you have. And so the analytics involved in balancing so much assumptions, balancing so much stakeholders, I think has definitely equipped me with very, very useful skills in my current position.
Let me take a moment to remind listeners that you're listening to Actuary Voices, the podcast from the American Academy of Actuaries. On this podcast, we talk to Academy volunteers and leaders about how they became actuaries and what inspires them about their work, both professionally and as an Academy volunteer. Please subscribe to Actuary Voices on your preferred podcast platform. I want to come on to your volunteering in a couple of minutes, but you obviously find the analysis and analytics very fulfilling about your work. What other parts of your work do you find personally fulfilling?
It's really helping the public, right? Whether it's in, my prior public sector position or what I'm doing currently in the tech startup. At the end of the day, it's making a difference, I think, in society in any way, shape, or form that your work contributes to society. So, for example, helping with the public sector with New York City, a couple of years ago, it's hard to believe it's a couple of years ago, but a couple of years ago during the start of the pandemic, New York City was the hardest hit city within the country, and one of the first two. And people were dying, close to 1,000 people a day. And, if you, drill down to the minutes, it was just a few minutes between each of the deaths. And so it really hit our city hard, especially the public sector, because, those were the ones who didn't necessarily get the chance to stay at home, right? Your police officers aren't going to, work in front of a computer. Your firefighters aren't going to be, working from their dining room table. Things had to go on, and your subway drivers, your sanitation workers, and all that. And so, to be able to contribute on a pension perspective and help the state legislatures come up with a COVID death benefit to the family members who were left behind, if their breadwinner was, died because they had to work on site. To be part of that very relevant, like time relevant, and very just taking care of the public who has been there for us and making sure the trains run and the trash is picked up and all that is really fulfilling, right? It's our way of giving back, using our math skills and our analytical skills to make sure that, the legislatures are equipped with the analysis that they need in order to pass these laws. And then, the work that I'm doing right now in a tech startup, it's an insurtech startup. And so there's been studies about, insurance literacy, which is a subset of financial literacy, for example. And, through the analysis that they found, first they asked the question to people who self-reported their comfort level with knowing insurance, life insurance. And, the responses showed that once you broke it out by generation, the younger generation claims that they know, they're very comfortable, they know a lot about insurance. And the elder generation tended to say they didn't know about insurance. And so there was a follow-up question in this study, which was, actually drilling down to insurance questions to understand if they really did know insurance literacy. And so they asked questions like, what is term life? What is whole life? What is universal life? And that the results of that study showed that, broken down by generation as well, that the older generation actually knew more than they claimed they thought they did. And the opposite was true for the younger generation. So at the end, the conclusion really was that maybe it's not the comfort level of insurance, but the comfort level of technology that drove them for the elder generation to feel that they didn't understand insurance that well because they weren't comfortable with technology, right? But the younger generation is more comfortable with technology, just kind of automatically felt that they were more comfortable with insurance. And so being in the insurtech space, how do we help this generation out? And maybe it's an education process about, making sure that the elder generation feels more included, and it's more inclusive, like that technology, right, is more inclusive for everybody. So it's always about, helping society at large. What are the issues around, our country, around our world, and how do we better serve people that might be underserved?
And that segues really well into the next section, which I wanted to ask you about your volunteerism, where you're helping the underserved out of the goodness of your heart.
Yeah, and so last year I started Abacus Actuaries. Abacus Actuaries is a professional network of actuaries, of Asian actuaries and their allies to address some of the challenges that Asian actuaries face in the profession. Most of the focus had been around some statistics that were published within the profession. And, we saw that about 25% of the profession, the actuarial profession, are Asians. But when you broke that percentage down to seniority level, in terms of entry level, middle management, C-suite executives or board members, you would see that percentage dramatically decreases as you rise through the rank. And so, this organization really is was formed to help Asians develop professionally within the profession to achieve their career goals.
Great. And do you have a website?
Yes, it's abacusactuaries.club.
Great. Okay. Well, we encourage people to go and have a look at that.
And kind of a shout out to that, I wanted to thank you and your team at the Academy for helping out with that website. As I said, Abacus Actuaries started last year, so it was a brainchild of mine probably a little bit shy of a year ago. And, obviously it's not a one-person job. I've been very, very fortunate that I've had so much support from the actuarial organizations and from volunteers within the profession and all the allies. And obviously the corporate sponsorships too. But, everybody stepped up, including the Academy, to help out. And, there's so much involved, obviously, in starting up a organization. So the Academy did step up and help us with the website. Others helped us. For example, CAS helped us with the logo and developing the logo. And SOA had some resources for us to, help us get our bylaws and our 501c3 status up and running. So thank you for everything, David. Your team is tremendous.
Parenthetically, I did not say that to try and get you to say that.
Thank you is deserved, even.
So I want to remind you of something you said when I initially emailed you and asked you to appear on Actuary Voices. And that you said, well, I've got lots going on, but the Academy's always been there for me, so I'll be there for the Academy. So tell us a little bit about that and what got you involved with the Academy as a volunteer and how it's been a two-way street.
Yeah, I think volunteering in general opens up so many doors, and it's a two-way street, as you had alluded to. And first, it just the network that you build, right? That you don't know how it's going to help you down the road. Whether it's you're looking to hire somebody and somebody knows somebody that they introduce, or you're looking for a job and you need a reference letter, or sometimes we work on emerging topics, right, as actuaries and in the profession. And sometimes you want to maybe early adopt something, one of the ASOPs I had mentioned previously, or maybe some new regulation comes out and it's never been done, and so you just want to bounce ideas off of someone else. So that network has provided me that return. And I've been through my actuarial profession and career. I've worked in roles where I was the only actuary within the organization. And so, sometimes you want to bounce ideas off of other people and might not find that resource within your employer. So it's been very useful to tap into that network. And it's not just about the network, it's also about the knowledge that you acquire. There's plenty of opportunities to volunteer on the Academy, and you can volunteer in the role of writing papers and writing responses to various initiatives. You can help plan the annual meeting. You can obviously sit on the board and play a more strategic role in helping shape the profession. And through any of that, I think any of those roles, you will always be rewarded with being on the forefront of emerging issues and furthering your knowledge and your experience based on a paper or a topic that you're writing on, or you're recruiting speakers for a session, and you get to hear a little bit about again what's on the forefront of the profession. So many ways that you can volunteer, and so many ways that it can give back to you. So volunteering is something that I do definitely recommend to anyone in the profession to not only gain but to give.
That's a great way of putting it. You've had some pretty high profile roles in your professional life. Over time, have there been any challenges you'd like to share with us and give some insight in how you resolve them so that other people can be guided by your experiences?
Yeah, I have had some high profile roles, and not only that, but I think I achieved them early in my profession. And my first chief actuary position was in my late 20s. And I think I had the double whammy, so to speak, of not only having this role at a young age, but being Asian, because Asians probably don't show their age as much as other ethnicities. And so it was kind of like a double whammy for me in the sense that how to be taken seriously, and whether some other people would take me seriously, right? I had the first strike, so to speak, of being young in my role already, and then two, looking probably even younger than what my real age was on paper. And so, how did I combat those? I do have some more gray hair now and wrinkles, I think. But other than that, more seriously though, I think, your work, the product that you present either to your boss or your presentation or your deliverables to clients, make sure that your experience and your strongest foot is shown in those products and those deliverables. And I think after time, once you deliver really good quality and high quality work, people are going to start seeing past the outside and know your contributions, from the inside. I would say that, and also taking the opportunity to speak up in meetings, right? No one's really going to get anywhere, and you're not going to contribute to a meeting if you're sitting there and not talking and not giving your thoughts. I know that there's a lot of fear sometimes to express some of your thoughts. I'm sure I'm not the only person that shares imposter syndrome sometimes, thinking that, like, I don't know if this is a good question. I don't know if, everybody knows the answer to this question or not. Should I raise this point? Is this point obvious? But sometimes contributing to it, surprises you, and that other people really find value in what you have to share also. So making kind of self-branding yourself in terms of your deliverables and in meetings, and making sure your voice is heard. I think those have helped me overcome, the reverse ageism discrimination that I've faced. And also, like I said, this goes back to abacus, but that's just one of the probably many issues that Asians face in the professional world, right? That maybe they're not taken seriously because of the way they look, because of the way they speak, or just they don't know the culture. So, that's been some of the issues that we are trying to address within Abacus.
Sounds good. And to your point, I've always gone by the philosophy that there's no such thing as a bad question. It's often a question that somebody else is too scared to ask, and putting it out there is enlightening for them and enlightening for the speaker if they haven't answered that question or haven't explained their position properly. So always go by that. And looking to the future, what kind of issues or opportunities do you see either for yourself or for the profession in the coming years?
Yeah, I think for myself and the profession, it's related. My answer to this is related. I think it's one and the same, which is, I like to share as I, thought back through, just the history and evolution of the workforce in general in the United States and perhaps other countries too. Whereas, we used to work with our hands, right? We used to be a very blue collar nation, and people working in factories, steel mines and all that. And so we used our hands a lot. And as time went on, and with technological advancement, we started using our heads more, right? So kind of, I would say that's like the current workforce, generally speaking, of course, not everybody, but, you see more jobs of people working, white collar jobs of people working in front of computers and doing spreadsheets and coding models, right? That's I think a good summary of a lot of what actuaries do. And, so we're moving into this space from using our hands to using our heads. I really do see when I look in the future that we're going to start using our hearts in doing our work. And, I say that because, I observe the younger generation where, they're so passionate about so many things, such as climate change, for example, right? They worry about the future of our planet and, climate change issues, or, they're very, crowdfunding is another example where, everybody pitches in nowadays to help out a cause of what they believe in. And, the younger generation oftentimes will, the cancel culture, right? If they don't believe in a company doing the right thing, they start to, make this online campaign and not support their product anymore. And that infiltrates, I think, also to the employer that they choose. If they don't believe in the mission or the vision or the culture of the company, I've seen a lot of the younger generation not join that company. And so, a lot of it's with the heart. So how's this related to the actual profession is, it's not, right now we work at spreadsheets, we come up with results. I think in the future, it's going to take another layer of analytics, which is, data analytics and, machine learning and artificial intelligence and all that to, not only look at the data to see what the results are, but what is the story behind it? For example, why are people retiring, or why are people, lapsing on their life insurance policies? What is the reason behind that? And I think, technology, as it had equipped us and helped us move from using our hands to using our head, it's also going to help us from using our head to using our heart, meaning, it's going to digging deeper into the analytics, the data analytics of the data. It's going to tell another layer of the story, and it's going to help us, more serve our customers and our clients at the end of the day. So that's really how I see the future of the profession, that, we need to, and there's been steps within the profession to do so, which is to, really start equipping the next generation with the skill sets to do data analytics. And personally, as you know, I've started a insurtech position with a tech startup, and that's the bread and butter of what they do. And I'm very excited to be a part of it and see the future of this.
I classify that as a very positive vision of the future, where we can use our heads and our hearts.
Well, I will say that I'm optimistic to the nine, in the sense that I have a quote that I sometimes describe myself as: some see the glass half empty, some see it half full. I see it more than half full.
Good. Well, may you always have a more than half full glass in front of you. It's a new Irish proverb.
Just in time for St. Paddy's Day coming up.
There you go. Sherry, thank you very much. It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you today.
Thank you. Thank you for having me today.
I've been in conversation with Sherry Chan, the Vice President for Pensions on the American Academy of Actuaries Board. My name is David Nolan, and I'm the host of Actuary Voices, the podcast from the American Academy of Actuaries. Please visit our website, actuary.org, for a wealth of information about the work that the Academy does. You can also follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn as well. And of course, please subscribe to this podcast on your preferred podcast platform.